He rescued the princess. Now the queen refuses to let him go. Part 1. Marcus Kane flew his small scout ship through the dark edges of the Veil Nebula when pirate raiders found him first. The attackers came fast, with bright energy beams that tore into his engines. Marcus twisted the controls hard and pushed the ship into a desperate spin to dodge the worst hits. Alarms screamed in his ears as red lights flashed across every screen. Smoke filled the cockpit and burned his eyes. He knew the ship would not last much longer. He spotted a green planet below with thick clouds and strange glowing patches on its surface. The navigation computer called it Valor Prime, home to the Valori people. Marcus had heard stories about them. They were tall beings with skin like shining crystal and eyes that glowed soft blue. They ruled a huge part of this sector and did not like strangers. The pirates kept firing, so Marcus had no choice. He aimed the damaged ship straight down toward the planet and hoped for the best. The ship shook violently as it hit the upper atmosphere. Flames licked the hull and the heat shields glowed cherry red. Marcus gripped the controls tight and fought to keep the nose up. Pieces of metal flew off the wings and spun away into the dark. The ship broke through the clouds and raced toward a wide jungle that stretched for hundreds of miles. He saw a silver shape in the distance, another ship much larger and more graceful than his own. It looked like a royal transport from the stories he had heard. Suddenly, bright flashes lit up the sky around the silver ship. Small black drones swarmed it like angry insects. They fired sharp purple bolts that punched holes in the elegant hull. Marcus watched as escape pods shot out from the transport, but most of them exploded before they cleared the ship. One pod tumbled slowly toward the jungle below, trailing smoke and sparks. He made a quick choice. He banked his dying scout ship toward that pod and pushed the engines to their limit. The scout ship groaned under the strain. Metal screeched as he forced it closer to the falling pod. He matched speed, then opened a side hatch with a hiss of air. He reached out with the ship's small docking arm and clamped onto the pod just before it hit the treetops. The extra weight dragged his ship down fast. He fired the last thrusters to slow the fall. Branches snapped and leaves flew everywhere as both craft crashed through the canopy. They hit the ground hard. The scout ship skidded across wet soil and slammed into a cluster of glowing blue trees. The pod bounced once, then rolled to a stop nearby. Marcus coughed as smoke poured into the cockpit. He unbuckled the harness and grabbed his sidearm, a heavy pistol he always kept close. His left arm hurt bad from the impact, and blood soaked his sleeve. He kicked the hatch open and climbed out into the humid jungle air. Birds with long silver feathers screeched overhead, and strange insects buzzed around his head. Ground felt soft and spongy under his boots. He limped toward the pod and saw the hatch had jammed shut. He banged on it with the butt of his pistol. Nothing moved inside. He found a weak spot near the edge and pried it open with a piece of broken metal from his ship. The hatch gave way with a loud crack. Inside lay a young Valori female. Her skin shimmered like pale quartz, and faint blue light pulsed under the surface. She wore a flowing silver robe torn in several places. A thin cut ran across her forehead, and blood trickled down her cheek. Marcus checked her pulse. It beat slow but steady. He lifted her carefully. She felt light in his arms, almost fragile. He carried her out of the pod and laid her on soft moss under a wide tree. He tore a strip from his jacket and pressed it to her wound to stop the bleeding. She stirred, and her glowing eyes opened wide. She looked at him with surprise and fear. Marcus raised both hands to show he meant no harm. "I am not here to hurt you," he said in the trade tongue. She blinked slowly, then spoke in a soft musical voice. "You are human." "Yes, Marcus Kane. Just a scout who got caught in the wrong place." She tried to sit up but winced and fell back. He helped her lean against the tree trunk. "What happened up there?" he asked. "Pirates." "No," she answered. "Assassins. They want the throne. My mother is the queen. I am Lyrian, her daughter." Marcus nodded. He had heard rumors about power struggles in the Valori court. He looked up through the broken canopy and saw black shapes moving in the sky. "More drones. They are still hunting us," he said. "We need to move now." Lyrian shook her head weakly. "I cannot walk far. My leg is broken." He looked at her right leg. It bent wrong below the knee. He cursed under his breath, then pulled a small medkit from his belt. He gave her a pain shot from the kit and wrapped her leg tight with a support brace from the supplies. "That will hold for now," he told her. "I will carry you." She stared at him. "You would risk your life for a stranger?" "For a Violori." Marcus shrugged. "I saw someone in trouble. I had a ship, I had a gun. Simple math." He lifted her again and started walking deeper into the jungle. She rested her head against his shoulder and whispered, "Thank you." Behind them the drones buzzed closer. Marcus heard their high whine as they scanned the trees. He moved faster, despite the pain in his own body. His boots sank into mud, and vines caught at his legs. He found a narrow ravine with a shallow stream running through it. He slid down the bank and carried Lyrian under a rocky overhang, covered with thick glowing vines. The vines cast soft blue light that hid them from above. He set her down gently and checked his pistol. Only half a charge left. He pulled a small power cell from his pocket and swapped it in. Better. He looked at Lyrian. She watched him with curious eyes. "Why do humans fight so hard?" she asked. "We are taught to run from danger." Marcus gave a short laugh. "Running did not work this time. Besides, I do not." Like bullies, the drones passed overhead. Their searchlights swept the ground, but the vines blocked most of the beams. Marcus held his breath until the sound faded. He turned back to Lyrian. "We cannot stay here long. Your people will come looking for you." She nodded slowly. "Yes, but the assassins will come first." He thought for a moment, then smiled. "I have an idea." He crawled back to the crashed scout ship and pulled out the last fusion core. It still glowed faintly. He carried it to the ravine and set it on a flat rock. He wired it to a piece of scrap metal and rigged a simple trigger. "A big EMP burst," he explained. "It will fry anything electronic within 50 meters, including those drones." Lyrian looked doubtful. "Will it not hurt us too?" Marcus shook his head. "I shielded the rock with the ship's hull plating. It should keep the pulse away from this spot." He finished the setup and handed her the trigger. "Hold this. When I say go, press it hard." She took the device with careful fingers. Marcus climbed back up the bank and waited in the open. He raised his pistol and fired 3 shots into the air. "Come get me, you metal bastards!" The drones turned instantly and dove toward him. Their weapons lit up with purple fire. Marcus ran sideways, dodging between trees. Beams scorched the ground where he had stood seconds before. He led them in a wide circle back toward the ravine. When they closed in tight, he shouted, "Go!" Lyrian pressed the trigger. A brilliant white flash erupted from the rock. The drones froze in midair, then dropped like stones. They crashed into branches and fell silent. Marcus ran back down to her side. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded, breathing fast. "That was incredible. No one has ever fought like that against our technology." Marcus wiped sweat from his face. "Humans are good at breaking things that should not break." He looked up at the sky. "No more drones for now, but I hear engines. Bigger ones." High above, silver ships with royal markings broke through the clouds. Clouds. They descended fast toward the crash site. Lyrian smiled weakly. "My mother's fleet. They will take us home." Marcus helped her stand. "You will be safe soon," he said. She looked at him with shining eyes. "And you, human, what will happen to you?" Marcus shrugged. "Guess we will find out." He carried her toward the landing lights as the first royal shuttle touched down in the clearing. Guards in gleaming armor rushed out and surrounded them. They raised weapons at the human, but Lyrian lifted her hand. "Stop. He saved my life. He is under my protection." The guards lowered their guns slowly. A tall figure stepped forward, wearing a crown of living crystal. It was Queen Thalira herself. She looked down at Marcus with cold, glowing eyes. "You are the human who interfered, human." Marcus met her gaze without flinching. "Yes, ma'am. Just doing what needed doing." The queen studied him for a long moment. Then she spoke in a voice like distant bells. "Bring them both to the palace. Now." He rescued the princess. Now the queen refuses to let him go. The royal shuttles lifted off from the jungle clearing with a low, powerful hum that shook the leaves. Marcus sat strapped into a seat next to Lyrian, while medics in silver suits worked on both of them. They attached glowing patches to his skin that sent cool waves through his wounds. The pain in his arm and side faded fast. He watched the ground drop away as the ship climbed toward the bright sky. Lyrian reached over and squeezed his hand gently. "You will see our home soon," she said. "It is beautiful." The shuttle broke through the clouds, and Marcus saw the capital city for the first time. Towers of clear crystal rose high into the air, catching every color of light. They twisted like frozen flames, and bridges of shimmering energy connected them. Flying vehicles moved between the towers in perfect, orderly lines. The palace sat at the center, a massive structure that looked like a living mountain of light. Guards in polished armor waited on the landing platform. Their weapons stayed lowered when they saw Lyrian step out, supported by Marcus. They led the pair through wide halls, with walls that pulsed soft blue. Marcus felt small next to the tall Valori. Everyone towered over him by at least a foot. Their movements were graceful and silent, like dancers. He kept his head up and tried not to stare too much. Lyrian walked with a limp, but the brace on her leg held firm. Medics had already started healing the break with beams of light that made the bone knit back together. They entered a huge chamber with a high domed ceiling that showed stars even in daylight. A throne made of woven crystal threads stood at the far end. Queen Thalira sat there, motionless. Her skin glowed deeper than Lyrian's, a rich violet that shifted with every breath. Her crown looked alive. Tiny points of light moved across it like fireflies. She watched them approach without blinking. Marcus felt the weight of her gaze, like a physical. Guards stopped a few paces from the throne. Lyrian bowed low, despite her injury. "Mother," she said, "this human saved me from the assassins. He fought alone when all hope seemed lost." Thalira raised one long finger, and the room fell silent. She studied Marcus from head to toe, then spoke in a voice that carried clear across the chamber, without effort. "You are the one called Marcus Kane." "Yes, ma'am," he answered, simple and direct. Thalira tilted her head slightly. "Humans are known for short lives and reckless actions. Yet you stand here alive, after facing our assassins and our technology. How?" Marcus shrugged. "I saw trouble. I had a gun. I used it. Simple math." The queen stared at him for a long moment, then gestured to a side door. Two medics came forward and guided Lyrian away for more treatment. She looked back at Marcus with worry in her eyes. He gave her a small nod, to show he was fine. Thalira stood and walked down the steps of the throne. Her robe flowed behind her, like liquid light. She stopped close enough that Marcus could see the tiny cracks of light moving under her skin like rivers. "You will come with me," she said. It was not a question. Guards formed a circle around them and led Marcus through another set of doors into a private medical wing. Inside the room, machines hummed softly, and screens showed glowing scans of bodies. Marcus was told to lie on a smooth table. A beam of warm light passed over him from head to toe. He felt strange tingles as tiny robots entered his blood to fix the damage. The queen watched every scan result appear on a floating display. Her advisors gathered around, whispering in their musical language. One advisor spoke louder. "Your Majesty, His body heals at impossible speed for a baseline species. His cells refuse to die, even under heavy radiation. The Queen turned to Marcus. You should have perished hours ago. Yet here you stand, breathing and talking. Explain. Marcus sat up slowly. The table adjusted to support him. How it works, I just keep going. When things get bad, my body pushes harder. That is all. Thalira stepped closer. You humans call it stubbornness. We call it anomaly. Your kind survived your death world through sheer refusal to quit. Fascinating. She turned to her lead medic. Continue treatment. Full restoration. No limits. The medic bowed and adjusted the machines. Marcus felt stronger already. The burns on his arms faded to pink marks, and the deep cut in his side closed completely. He looked at the Queen. Why help me? I am just a stranger. Thalira returned to her full height. Because my daughter lives because of you. Ancient law demands we honor a life debt. You will stay in the palace as our guest, until we decide what to do next. Marcus opened his mouth to argue, but she raised her hand again. No discussion. Your body still needs our care. If you leave now, the damage will return and kill you slowly. He thought about that for a moment, then nodded. Fair enough. I will stay until I am fixed. Then I go home. The Queen smiled a small, thin smile. We shall see. Days passed in the palace. Marcus was given a large room with windows that looked over the crystal city. Servants brought food trays filled with strange fruits and glowing drinks that tasted sweet and sharp. Lyrian visited often. She walked without the brace now. Her leg healed completely. She sat with him for hours, telling stories of her people and asking about Earth. He told her about oceans and mountains, about wars and laughter, about how humans kept trying, even when everything said they should stop. She listened with wide, glowing eyes. You speak of pain as if it is normal, she said. To us, pain is something to avoid at all costs. Marcus laughed a little. Pain is just information. It tells you to fix something or get out of the way. We listen, then we keep moving anyway. One evening, Lyrian brought him to a balcony high above the city. The night sky sparkled with nebulae and distant ships. She pointed to a bright star cluster. That is where the assassins came from. A rival house that wants my mother's throne. They think killing me will weaken her. Marcus looked at the stars. They are wrong. Your mother looks strong enough to handle anything. Lyrian smiled sadly. She is strong. But she carries the weight of centuries. She has seen empires rise and fall. She fears nothing except losing what she built. Marcus turned to her. You think she fears me? No, she answered. But she watches you closely, more than anyone else. That night, Marcus could not sleep. He walked the quiet halls and found himself near the medical wing. He heard voices and stopped to listen. The Queen spoke with her advisors. The human is more than we expected, one said. His biology adapts faster than any record shows, another added. He shows no fear of our power. He treats the Queen like an equal. The Queen spoke last. He is useful. We will keep him close, study him, learn from him. If the swarm comes again, we may need his kind of mind. Marcus backed away, quietly. He understood now. They did not just want to repay a debt. They wanted to keep him like a tool or a weapon. He clenched his fists. He had saved Lyrian because it was right, not to become someone's experiment. The next morning, guards came to his room. They said the Queen requested his presence in the council chamber. He followed them without argument. When he entered the large room, Thalira sat at the head of a long table. Advisors lined both sides. Lyrian stood near her mother, looking nervous. Thalira spoke first. Marcus Kane, you have recovered enough to walk freely. Your ship is lost, but we can provide transport home, if you wish. Marcus met her eyes, straight. But there is a condition, he guessed. The Queen nodded. The life debt binds you to our protection. You will remain here as honored guest, advisor to the court. Your knowledge of human ways may prove valuable. Marcus crossed his arms. And if I say no? The room grew quiet. Thalira leaned forward. Then you stay anyway, for your health. Of course. The nanites in your blood require constant recharge from our systems. Leave the palace and they shut down. You die within weeks. He stared at her for a long time. Then he laughed once, short and hard. So that is how it is. You saved my life just to own it. Thalira did not smile. I save your life because my daughter asked it. I keep you because the galaxy needs every advantage it can get. Marcus looked around the room at the tall, glowing faces. None of them looked cruel, just certain. He turned back to the Queen. Fine, I will stay, but on my terms. I help because I choose to, not because I am chained. I get a say in how things are done, and when the danger passes, I walk free. Thalira considered his words, then she nodded once. Very well, human. We have an agreement, for now. Lyrian stepped forward and took his hand again. Thank you, she whispered. Marcus squeezed back gently. Do not thank me yet. This is just starting. Outside the chamber windows, the stars burned bright and cold. Marcus felt the weight of an entire empire settle on his shoulders. He had come here by accident. Now he was caught in something much bigger. And he knew, deep down, the Queen would not let him go easily. He rescued the princess. Now the Queen refuses to let him go. Weeks turned into months inside the shining palace. Marcus walked the crystal halls every day, feeling stronger than he had in years. The nanites in his blood worked without stop. They repaired old scars from Earth battles and fixed the radiation burns from the crash. He could run now, lift heavy things, and think clear without pain. He spent mornings in the training yards, watching Valori guards practice with energy blades that hummed like angry bees. They moved fast and perfect, but never took risks. Marcus asked to join one day. The guards laughed softly at first. Then they handed him a dull practice blade. He fought 3 of them at once. They expected him to fall quick. Instead, he ducked low, rolled sideways, and used their long reach against them. He tripped one with a foot sweep, blocked another with the flat of the blade, and pushed the third back with raw strength. The guards stopped laughing. They bowed when the match ended, and called him worthy. Marcus wiped sweat from his face and grinned. Humans do not fight pretty. We fight to win. Lyrian watched from the side every time. She clapped when he finished, and brought him cool, glowing water afterward. They walked together in the gardens, where flowers opened at night and sang soft songs. She told him more about her world. The Veolori lived long lives, sometimes 500 years. They planned everything carefully. They avoided mistakes because mistakes cost too much. Marcus listened and shared his own stories. He talked about Earth cities full of noise and crowds, about people who built machines, then broke them, then built better ones. Lyrian laughed at the idea of humans turning failure into progress. You make chaos your friend, she said. We fear it. One afternoon, she took him to a quiet library, deep under the palace. Shelves stretched high, filled with glowing crystals that held memories and knowledge. She touched one, and a scene appeared in the air. Ancient Veolori ships fighting a dark enemy long ago. The enemy looked like a black cloud that ate stars. Lyrian explained, that was the first swarm. We barely survived. Now a new one grows in the core. It learns faster than we do. Our elegant plans fail against it. Marcus watched the images fade. He felt a cold knot in his stomach. Sounds like something humans would punch in the face until it stopped moving. Lyrian turned to him. You speak of fighting as if it is simple. For us, it is the last choice. We would rather negotiate or hide. Marcus shook his head. Negotiation works until the other side decides talking is weak. Then you need fists or guns, or whatever you have. Humans learned that the hard way. That evening, Queen Thalira called him to her private study. The room was small compared to the throne chamber. Walls glowed warm gold, and a single large window showed the swirling nebula outside. She sat behind a low table with no chair for him. Marcus stood straight and waited. Like a puzzle she could not solve. "You have adapted well," she said. "Your body thrives on our medicine. Your mind absorbs our ways faster than any guest before." Marcus nodded. "Thank you, ma'am. Your doctors are miracle workers." Thalira leaned forward slightly. "Yet you still act like an outsider. You repair our broken devices with strange methods. You use sticky tape from your crashed ship to hold crystal circuits together. You make our elegant machines stronger in ways we never considered." "Why?" He shrugged. "I see something broken, I fix it. My way is messy, but it works. Your way is beautiful, but sometimes too perfect. Perfection cracks under pressure. Messy bends and keeps going." Thalira tapped one long finger on the table. "You speak truth. We have grown comfortable. Our empire is vast, our technology unmatched, yet the swarm does not care for beauty, it only consumes." She stood and walked to the window. Stars reflected in her crystal skin. Marcus joined her. They stood side by side, looking out. Spoke quietly. "The faction that attacked Lyrian still lives. They hide in the outer systems. They build weapons. They wait for weakness. My daughter is the future. If she falls, the Dominion weakens. I cannot allow that." Marcus turned to her. "Then let me help. I owe Lyrian my help anyway." Thalira looked down at him. "You would fight for us? A human with no stake in our empire?" He met her gaze. "I have a stake now. You kept me alive. I do not walk away from debts. Besides, I do not like bullies, no matter what species they are." The Queen said nothing for a long time. Then she nodded. "You will join the Strategy Council. You will listen. You will speak when asked. Your human view may show us what we miss." Marcus agreed, but inside he stayed careful. He knew she still watched him like a tool she might need to use. Days later, a small explosion rocked the lower palace levels. Smoke filled the service tunnels. Guards rushed to the spot and found shattered crystal conduits. Someone had planted a device to cut power to the medical core. Marcus arrived before most of the guards. He saw the damage and recognized the pattern. It was not random. It was meant to look like an accident, but the wiring showed purpose. He traced the lines back to a hidden panel and found a second charge ready to blow. He yelled for everyone to clear the area. Then he grabbed tools from a nearby cart. He worked fast. He cut wires, rerouted power, and built a quick shield from scrap metal and his old jacket lining. When the second charge tried to detonate, the shield absorbed most of the blast. The explosion shook the floor but did no real harm. Guards stared at him in shock. One asked, "How did you know?" Marcus pointed to the wiring. "This pattern is human trick. We use it to hide bombs in tight spaces. Your people would never think this way." Queen Thalira arrived soon after. She looked at the damage, then at Marcus covered in soot and still holding smoking tools. "You prevented a disaster," she said. "This would have shut down your nanites and many others." Marcus wiped his face. "I saw trouble, I fixed it. Simple math again." Thalira stepped closer. Her voice dropped low, so only he could hear. "You are more valuable than I first thought. The swarm approaches. Our scouts report it grows smarter every cycle. Our strategies fail. Your chaos may be the answer we need." Marcus felt the weight of her words. He knew what came next. Control disguised as need. That night, Lyrian found him on the high balcony. She stood close and looked at the stars with him. "Mother trusts you more now," she said. "But she fears you too." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Fears me? Why? I am just one short human." She smiled sadly. Because you do not bow. Because you could leave if you wanted. Because you make us question our own ways. She fears losing control. He turned to her. And you? What do you think? Lyrian took his hand. The first person in centuries who sees us as equals, not subjects, not rulers, just people. I want you to stay, not because you must, but because you choose. To Marcus looked down at their joined hands. Her skin felt cool and smooth, like polished stone. He felt something warm inside, something he had not felt since Earth. He squeezed her hand gently. I choose a lot of things, Lyrian. But chains are not one of them. If I stay, it will be free or not at all. She nodded, understanding. Then stay free for as long as you can. Far below in the palace depths, Queen Thalira watched them on a hidden screen. Her advisors waited in silence. She spoke without turning her eyes from the image. The human will not leave easily. We must make sure he never wants to. The lead advisor bowed. We can increase the nanite dependency. Make his body rely more on our systems. Thalira shook her head. No. Force will break him. We need his will intact. We will give him purpose, give him battles, give him a place at our side. He will stay because he believes it is right. She turned away from the screen. Her crown lights dimmed slightly, and, with it, the test of whether one stubborn human can change the fate of an empire. Marcus stood on the balcony, long after Lyrian left. He looked at the nebula and thought about home, about Earth, about the life he left behind. Then he thought about the princess who trusted him, and the queen who needed him. He knew the easy path was gone. Now only the hard one remained, the one where he fought not just for survival, but for something bigger. He whispered to the stars, I did not come here to be kept, but if trouble is coming, I will meet it head on, like always. The night wind carried his words away, across the glowing city, and somewhere in the dark, the swarm listened unaware that a new kind of enemy had joined the game. He rescued the princess. Now the queen refuses to let him go. Marcus stood in the repair bay, deep under the palace, surrounded by broken pieces of his old scout ship. The Valori engineers had pulled what remained from the jungle crash and brought it here as a gift. They said it honored his service. He looked at the twisted metal and cracked panels and felt a pang of something like homesickness. He missed the familiar hum of human engines, the smell of burnt wiring, the simple feel of controls made for smaller hands. He worked alone most days. He used their advanced tools when needed, but mostly he relied on his own methods. He welded plates with hand torches. He rerouted power lines with salvaged cable. He sealed leaks with strips of flexible alloy and the last of his duct tape from Earth. The engineers watched in quiet amazement. One asked why he did not use the molecular bonder. Marcus answered, because sometimes the old way holds better under stress. The Valori way looks clean, but when things get rough, clean breaks. Lyrian came often to watch. She sat on a low bench and asked questions about every fix. He explained how humans learned to patch ships with whatever they found on junk planets, how they turned failure into upgrades. She listened with bright eyes, and sometimes helped hand him tools. Her fingers brushed his more than once, and each time he felt a spark that had nothing to do with electricity. One morning he finished the main engine block. It looked rough next to the smooth crystal lines of Valori design, but the readings showed it ran stronger and cooler than before. He wiped his hands on a rag, and turned to Lyrian. She smiled wide. You did it, she said. You rebuilt what we thought lost. Marcus nodded. Now I can go home, if they let me. Lyrian looked down at her hands. The queen has not spoken of your departure yet. Marcus crossed his arms. She will, I made that clear from the start. I stay until fixed, then I leave. No strings. Thalira summoned him to the launch platform. High above the city, a sleek courier ship waited, polished and ready. The hull shimmered silver blue, the same color as Lyrian's skin. Guards lined the ramp, weapons at rest, but eyes sharp. Marcus walked up with Lyrian at his side. He carried only a small pack, with his pistol, some spare clothes, and the few things he still owned from Earth. The Queen stood at the top of the ramp. Her crown glowed bright, and her robe moved as if stirred by invisible wind. She looked down at him with calm, steady eyes. "Marcus Kane," she said, "your debt is paid. Your body is whole. Our gratitude is complete. You may depart." Marcus bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty, for the help, for keeping your word." He started up the ramp. Lyrian followed close behind, her face tight with worry. At the hatch, he turned to her. "Take care, Lyrian. Stay safe. Fight smart if you have to." She reached out and hugged him, quick and fierce. "Come back someday," she whispered, "if you want to. I will think about it." He stepped inside the ship. The door hissed shut behind him. He sat in the pilot's chair and ran the startup sequence. Everything checked green. He felt the engines wake under him like an old friend. He keyed the comms. "This is Marcus Kane, requesting clearance for departure." The control tower answered immediately. "Clearance granted. Safe travels, human." Before he could lift off the platform, alarms blared. Red lights flashed across every screen. The ship locked down. Thrusters went dead. The hatch would not reopen. Marcus tried overrides. Nothing worked. He hit the comms again. "What is happening?" Queen Thalara's voice came through clear and cold. "The life debt is not yet settled. Ancient law allows the matriarch to claim guardianship over any being who saves a direct heir, especially one whose survival depends on our continued care. You will remain." Marcus stared at the controls for a long moment, then he laughed hard and bitter. "So that is the game. You fix me up, then pull the leash when I try to walk," Thalira answered calmly. "It is not a game. It is necessity. Your nanites require palace recharge fields. Beyond these walls they fail. You die in weeks. I will not allow that." He stood up and pounded the hatch. Nothing budged. He spoke through gritted teeth. "You want to keep me like a pet, a trophy, a weapon." The Queen replied, "I want to keep you alive and useful." The swarm grows closer. Our elegant fleets falter. Your mind sees paths we miss. You will serve as consort advisor to the throne. In return, your species gains alliance, trade, protection, power. Marcus paced the small cockpit. "No deal. I did not save her to get chained. I will take my chances outside." The Queen voice stayed even. "Then you will die, and Lyrian will mourn, and the Dominion will lose a valuable asset. Choose wisely." The guards outside the ship raised weapons. Lyrian stood among them, tears shining in her glowing eyes. She shouted, "Mother, please, he is not property. He is a friend." The platform stayed silent, except for the low hum of power fields holding the ship down. Marcus sat back in the chair. He thought about running, about forcing the ship somehow, about fighting his way out. But he knew the truth. His body felt good now because of their machines. Take that away, and the old damage would return fast. He looked at the view screen. Lyrian stood there pleading with her mother. The Queen remained still as stone. He opened the comms one more time. "Fine. You win this round. But hear me clear. I stay because I have no choice right now. Not because I want your throne or your crown. I will help, because the swarm sounds like something that needs killing. But the moment I find a way out without dying, I take it. No arguments." Thalira spoke after a pause. "Accepted, for now." The fields dropped. The hatch opened. Guards stepped aside. Marcus walked down the ramp, slow and deliberate. He stopped in front of Lyrian. She wiped her eyes and took his hand. "I am sorry," she said. "Back, do not be. This is not your fault." Queen Thalira descended the ramp to meet him. She placed a small crystal sigil on his chest. It glowed warm, then sank into his skin. "You are bound to the Dominion now," she said. "Not as prisoner, but as necessary ally. You will have quarters near the council. You will attend every meeting. You will speak freely, but you will not leave without my word. Marcus met her gaze. You call it alliance. I call it a cage. We will see how long the cage holds. He turned and walked back into the palace. Lyrian followed close behind. Guards formed a loose circle around him, not threatening, just present. Inside his new quarters, larger than before, with a wide window over the city, Marcus stood alone. He touched the sigil on his chest. It pulsed once, then went quiet. He looked out at the stars and muttered under his breath, "Never thought saving one princess would land me in royal jail." He sat on the edge of the bed and thought about the swarm, about the battles coming, about the stubborn streak that kept him alive this long. He knew the queen needed him more than she admitted. He also knew she would never let him go easy. But humans had broken bigger cages before. Lyrian knocked softly and entered. She sat beside him. "Mother believes this is best," she said. "For the Empire. For me. For you." Marcus looked at her. "Maybe it is. Maybe not. But I do not quit easy, and I do not forget promises I made to myself." She leaned her head on his shoulder. They sat quiet for a long time. The city lights danced below like captured stars. Outside the palace walls, the galaxy turned slow and dangerous. And somewhere in the deep black, the swarm moved closer, unaware that its next meal now came with a very angry human attached. He rescued the princess. Now the queen refuses to let him go. Marcus paced the wide balcony outside his new quarters, high above the crystal city. Night winds carried the faint hum of distant ships and the sweet scent of night-blooming flowers. He touched the sigil on his chest again. It felt warm, like a second heartbeat. He knew what it meant. The queen had marked him as hers in the eyes of her people. Not slave, not prisoner, but something close enough to make his skin crawl. Lyrian found him there. She stepped out quietly and stood beside him without speaking at first. They watched the stars together for a long time. Then she said, "Mother called the full council tomorrow. The sworn scouts returned. They say the enemy has crossed the outer rim. It moves faster now. It learns from every battle." Marcus turned to her. "How bad?" She looked up at him. "Bad enough that even Mother looks worried." He nodded. He had expected this. The queen needed a reason to keep him. She had found it in them. Coming war. He asked, "What does she want from me?" Lyrian answered, "Everything. Your mind, your fight, your refusal to lose. She thinks humans see victory, where we see only delay." Marcus gave a short laugh. "Victory is just not dying long enough to hurt the other guy worse." The next morning, guards escorted him to the great war chamber. A round table of polished crystals sat in the center. Holographic maps floated above it, showing red swarms creeping across star systems. Queen Thalira stood at the head. Advisors in flowing robes lined the walls. Lyrian sat to her mother's right. Marcus took the empty seat directly across from the queen. No one objected. Thalira spoke first. "The swarm has adapted to our shield harmonics. Our primary fleets lose 20% each engagement. We need new tactics, new weapons, new ways of thinking." She looked straight at Marcus. "That is why you are here. Human, speak." Marcus leaned forward. He studied the map for a moment. The red blobs moved in patterns too neat. Predictable. He pointed to a cluster near the core. "That looks like bait. They want us to chase it into a trap." Then he traced a line through empty space. "Here is where they hide the real force. We hit that instead. We draw them out. We make them chase us, for once." The advisors murmured. One spoke. "The risk is high. If we miss the hidden fleet, our capital lies open." Marcus shrugged. "Risk is always high. The difference is, we pick which risk. We do not wait for them to pick it for us." Thalira watched him closely. "You suggest we abandon our defensive lines? We go on the attack." "Yes," he answered. "Defend by attacking. Make them react to us for a change. Humans call it asymmetric warfare. Hit hard, hit dirty, hit where they do not expect. Another advisor objected. Our elegance is our strength. Chaos is weakness. Marcus met his gaze. Elegance dies fast against something that eats elegance for breakfast. Chaos survives. It adapts. It wins dirty fights. The room fell quiet. Thalira raised her hand. Enough. We will test this plan. Small scale. First, we send a strike group to the coordinates the human suggests. If it succeeds, we expand. If it fails, we return to known methods. Marcus added, one more thing. Let me go with them. The advisors gasped. Lyrian looked alarmed. Thalira raised an eyebrow. Why? You are no soldier here. Marcus answered, because if it goes wrong, I want to be there to fix it. And if it goes right, I want to see your faces when messy works better than perfect. Thalira considered his words. Then she nodded. You will lead the human element of the strike. You will have a small ship refitted with your repairs, and you will report directly to me. No filters, no delays. Marcus stood. Agreed, but remember this. If we win big, you owe me freedom. No more sigils, no more cages. The Queen met his eyes. We shall see what victory brings. The strike launched 3 days later. Marcus flew in a fast scout ship, patched with his own ugly fixes. It carried a squad of Valori elites, who now treated him with respect instead of curiosity. They dropped out of hyperspace near the target coordinates. The swarm waited exactly where he predicted. A cloud of black drones swarmed forward, hungry and fast. Marcus ordered the team to scatter. They used his chaotic flight patterns to confuse the enemy sensors. Valori ships danced in perfect formation, while his little scout darted wild and unpredictable. He fired improvised EMP bursts from the jury-rigged core he had salvaged long ago. The drones stuttered and fell. The elites followed up with precise energy lances. The swarm formation broke. They pushed deeper. Marcus spotted the hidden carrier, a massive dark sphere, pulsing with red light. He transmitted the data back to the palace. Then he said, Hold on. This part gets fun. He slammed the throttle forward and flew straight at the carrier. The elites tried to follow, but he outran them. He dodged beams and missiles, with moves no Valori would ever try. He got close enough to launch his last fusion grenade. Detonated against the carrier hull. A white flash ripped through the sphere. The carrier cracked open and spilled burning debris into space. The swarm retreated. The strike group returned victorious. No losses. Marcus landed his battered scout on the palace platform. Lyrian ran to meet him. She hugged him tight. You did it, she said. You really did it. He smiled. Tired but real. Yeah. Sometimes stupid works. Queen Thalira waited in the war chamber. The map now showed green where red had been. She looked at Marcus with something new in her eyes. Respect. Perhaps even admiration. You were correct, she said. The swarm faltered when faced with unpredictability. Your way saved lives. Marcus nodded. Good. Now about that freedom. Thalira stepped down from the throne. She approached him slowly. The sigil on his chest glowed bright, then faded. She placed her hand over it. The mark dissolves, she said, but only if you choose to stay. No force, no threat. You decide now. Leave and live free, or stay and stand as equal, not consort, not advisor, but kin. Partner in what comes next. Marcus looked at her, then at Lyrian. Lyrian smiled, soft and hopeful. The Queen waited patient for once. He thought about Earth, about the empty scout runs, about the life he used to have. Then he thought about the princess who trusted him, and the empire that needed him. He took a deep breath. I stay, he said, but as equal, I get a voice, a real one, and when the swarm is gone, I get to choose again. No cages ever. Thalira nodded. Once, equal it is. She placed a new sigil on his chest, this one lighter. It bound him by choice, not by force. Lyrian took his hand and held it tight. The advisors bowed low, not to the queen alone, but to the human who stood between them. They walked together to the balcony. Stars stretched endless above the city. Marcus looked out and felt the weight lift a little. He muttered low, "Never thought rescuing one princess would get me adopted by an entire empire." Lyrian laughed, soft and musical. "Not rescue one princess. Human, you reminded us what survival truly means." Thalira joined them on the balcony. She stood tall and calm. "The swarm still comes," she said, "but now it faces something new, something stubborn, something that refuses to break." Marcus grinned. "Let it come. I have not finished breaking things yet." The three of them stood side by side, watching the galaxy turn. The war was not over, but for the first time, the Dominion had a chance, not from perfect plans or ancient power, but from one short, stubborn human who refused to quit. And somewhere in the deep black, the swarm stirred, unaware that its next battle would meet a force it could never predict.